It's 7 p.m. and to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of Stahelis. And the next order of business, please.
Do you have any late items, Your Worship?
No late items, no.
Can I have approval of the agenda, please?
Moved by Councillor Piper, second by Councillor Vidal. Call the question. All in favour? Nobody opposed? Thank you. Next order of business.
That's the adoption of council minutes. We have the regular council meeting minutes of April 19th, 2022 here for adoption.
Do we have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Piper, second by Councillor Vidal. Any errors or omissions? Being none, I call the question. All in favour? Nobody opposed? Thank you. Next order of business.
Is there any business arising from the minutes?
Business from councillors arising from the minutes? Being none, we'll move on, please.
This is number 6 on the consent agenda. We have the tax rate bylaw number 1175 here for adoption.
Moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Piper. Call the question. All in favour? Opposed? Nobody? Thank you. Motion passes. Order of business.
We'll move through items 7, 8, and 9 to number 10, reports of councillors, committees, committee of the whole, and commissions.
Councillor Hooper.
Yeah, good evening all. On the 20th and 27th of April, I attended webinars with the Terramac Institute. On the 21st of April, I attended the Shem First Nations Memorandum of Understanding for the Future Overdose Prevention Site at Cheam. This is not going to only be the first one on First Nations land in BC, but apparently it's the first one in the whole of Canada. The 26th of April, I attended with members of the Agassiz Harrison, a meeting with the Agassiz Harrison BC CRN as part of Fraser Health. On the 26th of April, I attended a Zoom meeting with the Alzheimer's Society. On the 26th and 27th again of April, I attended a Zoom meeting with the Alzheimer's Society. 27th, I attended the first in-person Fraser Health Public Board meeting since COVID-19 pandemic. And on the 29th of April, I attended a meeting and training with members of the CNIB. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Palmer.
Nothing significant to report with regard to the meetings. I just wanted to raise the issue of the Public Art Committee, which has never met. The Public Art Committee was committed after it was created after we had at one point set aside a fair amount of dollars for public art, and a committee was formed. And then, of course, shortly thereafter, it was necessary to remove not all, but almost all the money for another purpose. So there's a very small amount of money available for public art. Anyway, I wanted to say that we're going to attempt to get the committee meeting now, since we have members that we haven't, and the intention would be to at least come back with recommendations about policies for public art. Even though we as a village have very little money set aside for public art at present in those funding, in the initial funding we had, it did hit me that since an earlier development proposal that's presently on hold had suggested that they would make a contribution, a relatively small one, for public art, it does hit me that we should have a policy on how such public art would be created and approved, and that it wouldn't be something that a developer would decide is the developer's choice of public art. So we're going to try and get some meetings together, talk to Michelle. We're going to attempt to get some meetings going so that perhaps by the summer we can have something in place, at least in terms of policies, even though we're not in a position to actually vet and make decisions about public art because we don't have a lot of money to actually create any, but at least have those policies in place. So I think that's something we can do. I think we've lost one committee member, and I'm trying to remember, was that committee member appointed by council, or do we have the basics? It was. So we're going to have to come up with a new committee member and bring that to the next council meeting, hopefully, to fill that vacancy so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Piper.
Thank you, Your Worship. On April 20th, I attended a Canada Day planning meeting. And on April 26th, I had the honor and deep privilege to attend the Career Life Connections Capstone Project at Agassiz Elementary Secondary School. The capstone is a rigorous learning opportunity that allows students to reflect and share in personally meaningful ways and is a requirement for career life connections and for graduation. The purpose is to let students demonstrate the knowledge, competencies, and passions that they can offer the world as they integrate personal interests, strengths, and new learning with preferred and future possibilities. I'd like to extend my sincerest of congratulations to the 3 outstanding students, Clay, Mark, and Carter, whom I was fortunate enough to learn from them about their experiences, goals, and ambitions. We are in very good hands with these young youth that I had the honor to learn a little bit more about. And so with future leaders like that, we're in very, very good hands. So thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Your Worship. On April 21st, I attended Agassiz Harrison Healthy Communities. A couple of points from that meeting I did want to bring up that just to make everyone aware that there still are cases of COVID that are circulating within Fraser Health. What's happening is people are now using the rapid home tests, and if they are testing positive, there's no need to report it to Fraser Health. So I just want everyone to be aware that COVID's not gone, and please still use the precautions. The 4th doses of Cova Vaccine for those over 70, those individuals will be receiving their notification in the near future. And those 4th doses will be available at our local pharmacies. Also, the heart health program will restart up this month at the Agassiz Recreation Center. Also, Your Worship, I'll be attending the Lower Mainland Local Government Association convention this week in Whistler. I'm looking forward to some real topical seminars and discussions, and look forward to reporting back at next council meeting. And one other thing, Your Worship, is my PSA for May is the annual Moose Hide campaign. This year is scheduled for May 12th. This is an Indigenous-led grassroots movement of men, boys, and all Canadians standing up to end violence against women and children. This campaign works to educate men and boys on the role they can play in ending violence against women and children. I encourage everyone to learn more about the significance of the moose hide and the moose hide pin, and more information is available on the website moosehidecampaign.ca. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Next order of business, please.
This is number 11, reports from the mayor.
Thank you. On April the 28th, we had a little gathering outside the village office. It was a national day of mourning, and the flags were lowered to half-mast. This important event is an opportunity to join workers, families, employers, and communities across the country to remember those who have been injured or lost their lives on the job. So we had the little speech from myself, and then we had a 1-minute silence at 11 o'clock. This is just something I don't normally read out, but it's a thank you. So I thought, well, I'm going to read it out. I won't mention the name or where the area is, but I reported a sewer drainage emergency this afternoon affecting our property. After sending you my written notification of the problem, I noticed that you also had an emergency number. I called the emergency number. My call was handled very politely. Shortly afterwards, I received a call from your employee who promptly came over and repaired the problem in a very friendly and professional manner. Our family appreciates the prompt and efficient handling of this emergency. Thank you very much. I thought that was very nice to receive. Thank you from one of our residents. As most of you have noticed, our crews have been busy the last month or so with, I think we're probably one of the cleanest villages in the lower mainland with the amount of power washing that we do. All our sidewalks have been power washed, our beach walls, and everywhere else that needs power washing. Fresh gravel is now on the path, most of the pathways, more to come. No parking signs are installed on Raccoons and Pine. And the new signage for beach and Barbie rules are installed on the light poles along the beach, getting ready for the upcoming season. So give kudos to our crew for their diligence and hard work in maintaining our beautiful village. At the meeting in April with the mayors, with Minister Nathan Cullen, there was discussions regarding the freshet. Spring flooding is generally driven by snowmelt and could be compounded by spring rains and prolonged warm temperatures. The River Forecast Center is monitoring both the snowpack and river systems. The snowpack in many areas of BC is currently slightly above normal. Colder conditions this April resulting in a slower melt and have potential for elevated flood risk if colder temperatures continue for an extended period. Weather conditions through now till June will determine how quickly the snow melts. BC Wildfire Services are preparing for wildfire season, hiring and training staff. Prescribed or traditional burning to reduce a fire risk near communities is taking place, and you're encouraged to remind people to be cautious with any outdoor burning to reduce the risk of grass fires. I would say to the residents of the village that on our website you will find information about Fire Smart. If you don't have a flyer on this and how to look after protecting your own properties regarding leaves or cuttings that need to be away from your home, to be more cautious with the fire restrictions. On April the 21st, I had the pleasure of in Victoria of having a meeting with our Minister of Transportation Infrastructure, Rob Fleming. Our second meeting, the first one was a couple of weeks before by Zoom, and that was basically regarding the bridge situation. The issues that were brought forward to Minister Fleming for the community was with the increased development on Hot Springs Road. It would be nice to see some extra crosswalks on Hot Springs Road, reduce the speed limit. We have 3, we go from 80 to 60 to 50 to 30 to 50 on Hot Springs Road. And also Hot Springs Road and Lillooet, the paving, especially Lillooet, is in a need of, I believe, repair, to have that done, and also asking support for our grant that we put in, the $2 million for the drainage problems on Hot Springs Road. That's from the village entrance, of course, not the Hot Springs Road beyond that. And also we had also a discussion on the bridge and the bridge itself, when they started to look at it more closely, took more than they anticipated in the funding that was put aside for a bicycle path. When they looked at it again, it wasn't feasible to do that and with the seismic upgrades and other repairs that had to be done to the old bridge, a lot of that funding was used towards that. Both the calls prior by Zoom and when I met with Minister Fleming in regards to the bridge, I also mentioned that speed limits should be restricted on that bridge and to take away the broken lines so there's no overtaking whatsoever on that bridge. Also, it may be an idea if the heavy duty traffic that comes down from the canyon, that if they could be diverted through Hope to Highway 1, unless traffic that's going to Mission would have to come through Agassiz, but that wouldn't affect the bridge. And he looked at that very favorably in maybe looking at that. Of course, everything would be dependent if Highway 1 is ever closed due to slides. But, and also to really look at the safety issues on the bridge to such time that they come to some conclusion on how they're going to deal with trying to get it more safer for pedestrians and bicycles and cyclists to use that. It was a very good meeting. It was very responsive to the suggestions, and I did take with him the photographs of the heavy rain that was accumulated in Hot Springs Road during the flooding last year, and how the drainage issues do affect Hot Springs Road there. So, and then our manager Madeline McDonald was also in contact with his assistant regarding our funding, and they were going to be following up with the federal government on that funding. So it's a very good meeting, and it was well worth it. At the Fraser Valley Regional District Hospital Boards section, due to the passing away of Terry Raymond, very beloved electoral area director from Boston Bar, who was chair of the hospital board. An election was held, and Vice Chair Sylvia Pranger was elected as chair, and Ross Siemens of Council from Abbotsford, who sits on the board as well, as vice chair. We had a presentation from Dr. Victoria Lee, made a presentation, just basically hit on some new programs that they're looking at introducing, the new one called Hospital at Home Care. With an aging population, more support at home would be more helpful, and people who are able to live at home and get the support would rather stay at home than be in a home themselves. So that appears to be one of their new priorities. During COVID in Fraser Health Region, which is approximately 1.9 million, surgeries were actually up 4%. They were not so impacted as other parts of the province in their health regions. During COVID, 73 nurses were trained. 1.4 million tests were carried out, 25,000 a day, 530 clinics. Chilliwack Hospital will be receiving several $1 million to be spent on various products. And of course, one of the biggest problems that's hitting our region of Fraser Health is the toxic drugs, which of course has brought many deaths over the past year. So that was a good presentation from there. It was a very early evening. We all got home at 11 o'clock that night, but there you go. It's all part of the game. Next order of business, please.
That's number 12, reports from staff. We have a report from the finance manager regarding the 2021 statement of financial information.
Mr. Schultz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here tonight for the issue of, or the approval of the 2021 Statement of Financial Information. The Statement of Financial Information, which is also called SOFI, is a statutory requirement under the Financial Information Act that must be filed annually by June 30th. Section 9 of BC Regulations 371/93 states the statement of financial information and accompanying schedules must be approved in writing by the council and the chief financial officer. In addition, a management report approved by the chief financial officer must accompany the statement of financial information. So this package of documents before you tonight contains the data required to file the statement of financial information, which also includes a copy of our audited financial statements that were approved by council at the March 29th meeting. Accordingly, the recommendation is that the 2021 statement of financial information be approved.
Thank you, sir. So we have a recommendation. Do we have a move and a second? A move by Councillor Palmer, second by Councillor Vidal. Discussion. Councillor Hooper.
Yes. Thank you. Through your worship to staff, I'm looking, I was a bit surprised because I go back over the old Sophie reports that. I was a bit surprised that that the increase in employees' remuneration over 75,000 since 2018 has gone up by 37%. Yeah, that's well over 200,000 in 4 years. I'm not questioning staff and on their capabilities now, but is this going to be sustainable in the future if this sort of increase in 4 years carries on?
Any comments? CEO, you're going to comment on this?
Certainly, I can remind council that the decision on senior staff salaries are made at the council table.
Thank you. Also, on the main list of suppliers, I noticed there's been an increase from last year, from the year before to this year of 106,000 for tourism, Harrison. The Fort Garry fire truck, I take it that is part payment for the fire truck and not the full payment. There's about another 250,000 to go on that one, correct?
That's correct, Councillor.
Bylaw enforcement, I mean, that went up 20,500 since the previous year. And as I'm aware that the amount of fines have remained static. What else have we got here? District of Kent. I mean, there's a $27,000 increase in that. I'll take it that's for the removal of the solid waste from the wastewater plant.
That's correct.
Thank you. And we've got one here that's for Galvin International for 52,326. I take it that's for air conditioning, correct?
Yeah, Councillor Hooper, that's for the SCBA cylinders for the fire department.
Right. The last bit, which is quite worrying, we've got a WorkSafe BC claim. Is that, or WorkSafe BC for 32,000? Is that a claim or a fine?
That's the WC premiums that we're required to pay.
Yeah, because I can't see it in any of the previous ones. Sophie reports.
It could have made the threshold. It does increase slightly each year.
Rightio, thank you.
Chair, you had a comment to make on the tourism?
Oh, yes, I just might remind everybody that's looking at that large amount as the tourism line item, that is the last year of a flow through for MRDT monies that are collected by hotels and then were remitted to the village by the province and then flowed through to Tourism Harrison River Valley for their marketing work. Effective the 1st of this year, those monies will be flowing directly to tourism, and I don't expect you'll see that on next year's Sophie.
Thank you. Any other comments? Nothing? Yes, Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to our financial officer. The amount that Councillor Hooper alluded to on the fire truck of $302,000. Do you know offhand what the balance is owing? Just a rough idea. I think that if I sort of like my memory tells me they're probably about half we still are indebted for. Is that correct?
That's correct, Councillor Vidal. It's approximately half.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the recommendation? Anybody opposed? No. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. Next order of business.
We have no bylaws on the agenda this evening, so we'll move to number 14, new business. Do you have any new business, Your Worship?
I believe the CAO has a verbal report.
Yes, Your Worship, I'd just like to report out on the decision that was made earlier today in an in-camera meeting. And that was that the request of offer to purchase the pathway between 352 and 354 Chestnut Avenue be respectfully declined, and that staff be authorized to advise the property owners in writing.
Thank you. And the next order of business.
Number 15, questions from the public pertaining to agenda items only. There are questions from Zoom participants. We can call on those first. Are there any participants?
Anybody on Zoom this evening who would like to ask a question?
Looks like there are no questions, Your Worship.
No questions from Zoom. Anybody from the floor that would like to ask a question pertaining to the agenda, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. The audio is still terrible, even though I'm sitting between you and that speaker. I find it very difficult to hear what is being said. Councillor Palmer, in his report, mentioned that money for public art had been spent already, but I couldn't hear what he said it had been spent on. I wonder if he could restate that clearly.
Councillor Palmer, would you like to just restate for the purpose of Mr. Allen? Thank you.
Microphone, please.
There was an initial amount of money set aside for public art, and I believe the money for public art came through as for a decision of council to be moved over to other work on the lagoon. I believe it was the
boat launch building.
boat launch building.
Oh, so the public art money is going to be spent on the boat launch building? Is that?
The majority of it. A certain amount was set aside, whatever the budget amount was. I think it leaves something between $12,000 to $17,000 in public art, but the amount before was a very large amount for a numerous years of spending on public art. But it was moved over for the boat launch building work that has not yet been done, right? It's not started?
That's correct.
Yeah,
And
so that money's, but it was reallocated for that.
within an RMI budget.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Councillor Palmer, I think, also mentioned that there's a vacancy in the Public Art Committee, and I'd like council to consider my volunteering for that. I've been an art collector and an art dealer. I started the Arts Festival, member of the Kent Harrison Arts Council, and I think I'm well qualified, and I'm willing to advise the village on public art. Thank you.
Mr. Allen, that of course will go out for as an ad, I believe. It normally does. I'm assuming that's how it's going to be done.
Your Worship, this was just brought up to staff today, so we haven't quite put a process in place yet.
Thank you very much, sir. Any further questions this evening from the public? Being none, motion to adjourn.